Members' motion with no legislative effects. Motion debate on actively responding to economic transformation and maintaining a favourable business environment, moved by Mr. Jeffrey LAM. Two members will move amendments to the motion. This council will proceed to the joint debate on the motion and the amendments. Later, I will first call upon Mr. Jeffrey LAM to speak and move the motion. Then I will call upon Mr. CHEN and Dr. Hoey Simon Lee to speak in sequence, but they may not move the amendments at this stage. The joint debate now begins. Members who wish to speak, please press the request to speak button. I now call upon Mr. Jeffrey LAM to speak and move the motion. Mr. Jeffrey LAM. Thank you, President. I move that the motion, as printed on the agenda, be passed. President, I would like to share a story with fellow members. There is a flower shop in Central. The shop was opened by a Gen Y youngsters in 10 years ago. Now the shop was on the ground floor, and then he moved the shop to a baker shop. Now the shop survived the blacklight violence and the pandemic. However, with the loss of a group of high-spending consumers and a change in consumption model, the road is difficult ahead. This month, the owner announced that the operation of the shop would become online. So that's the plight faced by many SMEs as well. We are now at a transitioning period of the economy, and we can't ignore the issue. This is not a cyclical issue. This is a structural issue. We need to be bold in reforming. Director Xia Baolong said many times that we need to adapt to changes. For things which are outdated, we need to change them. We can't cling on to these old ideas. That's why the government must implement policy measures to support the development of the SMEs and improve the business environment. Now, these are my 4 suggestions. First, the government should actively take forward the task of attracting enterprises and investment, and introduce more new capital and diversified business into Hong Kong, and create a business that is favorable for the long-term development of Hong Kong. Now, after 2 years' effort by the current term government, we are now a stable society. We enjoy security, and now we can focus on economic and social development. Now, what's the value of Hong Kong? To put it bluntly, we need to be a place where businesses can make money. We need to be a platform where we can introduce capital and help mainland enterprises go global. We need to develop headquarters economy and promote the development of family offices in Hong Kong. We need to keep our investors in Hong Kong, and we need to strengthen investments from the mainland. Also, we need to encourage confidence of international financial players to establish a business in Hong Kong. We can't just compare with others and engage in meaningless reform. We need to do what is really necessary. We need to boost investment and boost the economy. And second, we need to enhance the talent policy to attract more talents to settle in Hong Kong. After the pandemic, there is a troll for talents all over the world. We can't afford to be proud. We need to look at our competitors and adopt unconventional measures to attract talents to Hong Kong. We were given a unique positioning by the country that is an international hub for high-caliber talent. Now, with the Top Talent Pass scheme, some gaps have been plugged. But our positioning is not just for attracting mainland talents, but talents from the world. We need to retain the talents and help them take roots in Hong Kong so that businesses will get the talents they need. In terms of talents, undeniably, over the past few years, many of our middle class and professionals have moved to other places because of various reasons. Will they come back? I believe some of them would, because the life overseas is not as glamorous as they expected. But we need to implement long-term measures to attract these people to return. Now we need to provide a one-stop service to help overseas talents to find a house, find a job, and find a schools for their children, or even find a job for their spouses. In terms of quality migrant admission scheme and top talent pass scheme, I think these schemes are efficient, but we need to give them more potential. If they find it difficult to find a job in Hong Kong, then they may choose to leave after their visas expired. So there are lots of macro and micro issues to consider. Third, the government must vigorously support the sustainable development of SMEs and assist them in upgrading and transformation and opening up new business and markets so that they can adapt to changes in the operation environment. Over the past few years, many SMEs were seriously hurt. They had liquidity issues. Now, I thank the government for appreciating their plight and launching a series of measures to help SMEs to cope with their liquidity needs. The government in the country, the Central People's Government, launched many boosting measures. For example, lowering the bank reserve requirement ratios and also the ratio of first mortgage. On the other hand, Hong Kong's measures are more conservative. Now we need to be bold in order to attract more capital. Now with good policy measures, we need to be bold in implementing them. We can't afford to pay attention to noises. If we miss this opportunity, there will be no saving for us. Now the President-elect Donald Trump in the US said that he will launch a tariff hike after coming into office. This is why we need to collaborate even more closely with the mainland authorities to help our industries go global. Now, the government has done a lot in terms of tapping the ASEAN and Middle East markets, and we are beginning to see the results. The government should listen more closely to the business sector's views because the business sector are experienced and we have great intuition. Now, many mainland businesses are planning to tap the US and the Western markets. We need to harness these B2B and B2P powers. And also, there should be more close collaboration between the departments to streamline the application process. Now, from applying for a business license, finding an office, and finding the talents in Hong Kong, overseas investors need to go through a lot of administrative hurdles. If there is a one-stop application process, it would be much more efficient. We need to remove red tapes and enhance the relevant laws and also integrate the application process. Now, Director Xia Baolong said that the business sector in Hong Kong is the mainstay of economic growth in Hong Kong. I hope that the business sector can be more deeply involved in the country's and Hong Kong's development. Looking forward, I hope the government will work more closely with the business sector and help the transitioning and upgrading of SMEs, including tapping the e-commerce business. Also, promoting products manufactured and developed by Hong Kong developers. Lastly, I urge the HKSL government to be prepared. In case that our economic situation deteriorates, there must be a plan B to immediately enhance support for businesses. Thank you.
I now propose a question to you that Mr. Jeffrey Lam's motion be passed. Mr. Rock Chen. Thank you, Deputy President. I speak in support of the original motion moved by Mr. Jeffrey LAM, actively responding to economic transformation and maintaining a favorable business environment. I made an amendment under a comprehensive review of the existing policies, legislative framework, and monitoring effectiveness, examining any room for removing restrictions, enhancing the vetting and approval process, and reducing compliance and operating costs. Is there any room to reduce red tape, streamline procedures, to reduce compliance costs in order to improve the competitiveness of the Hong Kong market? In fact, we have been emphasizing more active review of the policies across different government bureaus. We need to make legislative amendments, streamline administrative procedures to facilitate business transactions in Hong Kong. A few measures have been implemented. They target enhancing the collaboration and coordination among different government bureaus in order to reduce the time taken to approve the applications. We commend and recognize the government's efforts. Let me give you two examples. They illustrate how the government reduced red tape. About 2 months ago, the SFC and the Hong Kong X published a joint declaration. They have taken on board the DAB's suggestions in relation to streamlining the application procedures that will enhance our global competitiveness and further cement our status as an international financial center. Last year, we completed the third reading of streamlining land procedures, and we successfully reduced red tape and removed unnecessary obstacles that prevented development of Hong Kong. So we have taken a giant step towards better development of Hong Kong. We need to move with the times. We need to stay abreast of the times. There are enterprises or industries based on new quality productive forces. It's a time to inject new impetus into Hong Kong. Say low altitude economy, Web 3.0, stablecoin, physical asset tokenization, shipping industry, expediting the use of green bunkering or green fuel. All these involve new regulation and laws as well as new regulatory framework. So how can the administration strike a balance between development and regulation? The government should do its level best to reduce red tape in relation to administrative procedures. The administrative should work to reduce red tape and enhance efficiency of different procedures. That's exactly how Hong Kong can embrace changes and respond to changes. Last but not least, Donald Trump has instructed the transitional team to significantly reduce the supervision of overseeing banks. They have set up a dedicated unit to enhance the efficiency of the government. At present, global competition is keen. If the U.S. takes the lead in relaxing the internal regulation or supervision, we cannot afford to lag behind. We need to be putting in place reasonable and smart strategies. I so submit. I hope members will support my amendment. Thank you. Dr. Hoey Simon Lee. Thank you, Deputy President. I thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving this motion. It's a timely motion. As Mr. Rock Chen mentioned, we are in the middle of economic difficulty. It is not just an economic cycle change. It's a change in relation to geopolitical tensions, economic structure, and so on. My amendment focusing on providing support and grooming to startups. Startups are an important element in the business world. They are the major growth engine in the modern business world. They are more flexible, they are unique, they have a wide array of advantages. The new ecology of startup teams will affect organizational behavior. These new commercial organizations need a different business environment. Therefore, how can the government provide greater support to the grooming of startup teams in order to respond to the economic structural change in line with the development of the INT sector? That is the topic today. Usually, startup teams go through different stages, say the startup stage. That is in relation to registration of the company, product prototype development, and so on. Next, development stage and growth stage. When a company moves on to the mature stage, the company will have to develop the company and businesses. First of all, capital support. There's a wide array of funding provided to startup teams to provide direct financial support. They can be applied to marketization, introduction of talents, and the development of products that can ease the financial pressure of startups. We need to ramp up publicity efforts to let the public know about these areas. We also need to streamline procedures as a result. In order to reduce the tax burdens of startups, the government can study rolling out tax concession measures. We also need to provide more support in relation to venues. We need to encourage more incubators to set up presence in Hong Kong, thus bringing more incubators and companies to Hong Kong. The government can also consider revitalizing industrial buildings to provide startup teams with low-cost or even free office space. We need infrastructures as well as professional support teams to offer one-stop service, say legal advice, market interface, and so on. We also need to reduce red tape and streamline procedures in order to provide a favorable business environment. We need to streamline the relevant procedures as well as those in relation to the opening of bank accounts. We need to provide financing support. We need to encourage community participation to provide a wide array of financial support for startups. We need to encourage effective interface among startups to solve the problem of difficulty in financing. We need to provide intellectual property protection for startups. We need to encourage the interaction between talents in different places so we can attract talents to come to Hong Kong. Overall, support measures cover different realms. Startup teams are expected to receive a wide spectrum of support. This will lower the threshold for starting business, and this will also encourage the community to think out of the box to develop new quality productive forces, so they will become a major growth of engine in Hong Kong. I so submit. I hope members will support my amendment as well as the original motion.
Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. Deputy President, I would like to thank Mr. Jeffrey Lam for moving this motion, and I'd also like to thank Mr. Rock Chan and Mr. Hoey Simon Lee for proposing their amendment so that we can have the opportunity to listen to the ideas and proposals of members on actively responding to economic transformation and maintaining a favorable business environment. Mr. Jeffrey Lam proposes that the government should introduce feasible policies and measures to support the enterprises and maintain a favorable living or business environment, which is entirely in line with the government's policy direction and objective of actively promoting economic development. Hong Kong's economy recorded a year-on-year growth of 2.6% in the first 3 quarters of this year. It is expected that the momentum will continue in the fourth quarter. The growth for the whole year as a whole will be close to the lower end of the original forecast, that is between 2.5% and 3.5%. Including the fourth quarter, Hong Kong's economy is expected to maintain growth for the 8th consecutive quarters. Under one country system, Hong Kong enjoys the unique advantages of having the motherland as its backup and global connectivity, as well as a highly internationalized business environment. The Economic Freedom of the World Report 2024 has again ranked Hong Kong as the world's freest economy, while the World Competitiveness Yearbook 2024 has also ranked Hong Kong first in the world in terms of international trade and business regulations. While the Hong Kong business environment remains sound, the pace of recovery varies across different sectors due to increasing global economic uncertainties, the strong Hong Kong dollar, and changes in consumption patterns of tourists and the public. In view of this, the government has been optimizing its policies, and the chief executive has introduced a number of new initiatives in his policy address in 2024 to strengthen support for enterprises and the development of new quality productive forces. Invest Hong Kong has organized various investment promotion activities on the mainland and overseas to promote Hong Kong's diversified advantages, favorable business environment, and the latest initiatives of the relevant bureaus, with a view to actively attracting investment and driving the economy. In the future, Invest Hong Kong will step up its efforts to strengthen cooperation with local chambers of commerce, consulates, and relevant organizations through its worldwide network. Invest Hong Kong will also provide one-stop support services to mainland and overseas enterprises in different sectors, with a view to attracting them to set up or expand their business in Hong Kong. Meanwhile, since its establishment in late 2024, the Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises, OASIS, has been proactively reaching out to enterprises and organizations in the strategic industries. So far, we have successfully introduced more than 60 top-notch enterprises which have already set up or plan to set up R&D centers, corporate treasury centers, and advanced manufacturing production bases here. In addition, we will further develop headquarters economy to make Hong Kong an ideal platform to help our country bring in enterprises and capital and go global. We will step up our efforts in attracting enterprises from the mainland and other parts of the world to set up their headquarters or branch in Hong Kong. For example, among the top-notch enterprises introduced by the OASIS, 80% have set up or plan to set up their global or regional headquarters in Hong Kong. It is estimated that in the next few years, a total of about $42 billion of investment will be brought to Hong Kong, and over 17,000 jobs will be created, which shows that the headquarters economy is beneficial to our economy. In addition, according to market reports, it is estimated that more than 2,700 single-family offices have set up in Hong Kong, and more than half of them are set up by ultra-high net worth individuals with assets more than $50 million. We have implemented a number of measures to enhance the development of family offices, including the provision of profit tax exemption for single-family offices and the introduction of new capital investment entrance scheme to attract more family offices and asset owners to set up in Hong Kong. On optimizing the manpower policy, the government's policy has all along been focused on nurturing local talents, supplemented by imported talents, so as to enrich the pool of local talents to meet the needs of socio-economic development. In view of the acute manpower shortage, the government has launched a series of measures since late 2022 to actively recruit talents, including the introduction of Top Talent Pass scheme and enhancement of various existing talent admission schemes, etc. The measures have been effective. In October 2023, the government set up Hong Kong Talent Engage to provide comprehensive one-stop service and support to talents coming here and to follow up on their development and needs. The 2024 policy address announced a number of innovative measures to revamp the mechanism for admission of talents with a view to building up a quality pool of talents to cope with future development and reinforcing Hong Kong's position as an international hub for high-caliber talents. On support for SMEs, the government has been adopting a multi-pronged approach over the years to help SMEs in developing diversified markets and enhancing their competitiveness through various funding schemes and support services. In the past 2 years, the government has launched the e-commerce Easy and Easy Bud under the Bud Fund to help SMEs upgrade and restructure their business operations and develop new markets as well as e-commerce in a more speedy and targeted manner. The government has also allocated 100 million to enhance the services of the SME Reach Out progressively over a 5-year period from 2023 to help small and medium enterprises apply for grants and make use of new technologies to enhance their competitiveness. In view of the rapid development of the global e-commerce market, the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau set up the Interdepartmental E-commerce Development Task Force under my chairmanship in January this year, with a view to encouraging enterprises to capitalize on the opportunity to develop cross-boundary e-commerce business. 2024 policy address talks about the establishment of high-value supply chain. In order for us to enhance support to SME, we will ask the LegCo to pass a resolution to enhance the percentage of reimbursement to 95%, and we will expand the coverage of the insurance from 12 to 20 countries, and we will expand the service coverage to Middle East and Belt and Road countries. The relevant authority will work with the financial industry to enhance support for the e-commerce industry. In January this year, the CEDB set up the Interdepartmental E-commerce Development Task Force under my leadership to encourage enterprises to capitalize on opportunity to develop cross-border e-commerce business. Through the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, we also organized the first Hong Kong Shopping Festival on mainland e-commerce platforms in August this year to enable small and medium businesses to leverage on the high visitor traffic and broad customer base of these platforms to promote brand awareness of Hong Kong products and expand the domestic market. Hong Kong's startup ecosystem continued to thrive. According to the Global Startup Ecosystem Report 2024, Hong Kong ranks 3rd in the world and 1st in Asia in terms of emerging startup ecosystems. To support startup, the government has set up a $2 billion innovation and technology venture fund to encourage more venture capital to co-invest in local startups. The Hong Kong Science Park and Cyberport, the 2 flagships of our innovation and technology industry, also support startups through various incubation programs, including workplace or workspace, shared facilities, subsidies, technical support, marketing and business development support, etc., so as to facilitate their growth. Improving the business environment is an ongoing effort of the government. Through advisory bodies such as the Trade and Industry Advisory Board and the Small and Medium Enterprises Committee, the government listens to the views of the local business community and organizations on the development of different sectors and SMEs. The Business Facilitation Advisory Committee also assists government departments in promoting business facilitation measures to the trade and discussing with them ways to optimize the existing regulatory regime to improve the business environment. Bayrock's department will continue to apply INT to introduce more business-friendly policies and measures through the Be the Smart Regulator program to enhance the efficiency, transparency, and business-friendliness of the licensing regime, with a view to lowering the cost of compliance and at the same time collecting feedback on the new regulatory proposals through the Business Consultation e-platform. Deputy President, the government is committed to improving the business environment and providing maximum support to enterprises. I will later give a detailed response after listening to members' views. The Undersecretary for Labor and Welfare will also respond to the areas under the purview in his closing remarks. I so submit. Thank you, Deputy President.
陳振英議員。
代主席。
Mr. Ronald Chan. Thank you, Deputy President. Economic transformation is key to the development of a country. A good business environment can attract investments and drive innovation, groom talents, thereby boosting the competitiveness of an economy. This will achieve complementarity. I thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving this motion. I urge the government to have regard to the actual situation to build a favorable environment for economic transformation. The In the latest report on World Financial Center, Hong Kong rose again to the top 3 around the world and the first in Asia. Alongside new development growth points, we need to keep our mind open to develop shipping technology and so on. We need to promote synergetic development. We need to be active in our efforts in view of economic transformation. As mentioned by Mr. Rock-Chan in the amendment, we need to conduct a comprehensive review of the existing policies, legislative framework, and monitoring effectiveness in order to allow more room for SMEs to grow, to develop. We also need to reduce the compliance costs for SMEs. We need to take stock of the practice of our competitors. We don't just need to go through the motion. We shouldn't focus on theories. Instead, we need to take stock of the effect of regulatory measures. The government has been emphasizing the importance of innovation and technology. As at the end of 2023, the Hong Kong Productivity Council announced the findings of a survey. It found the digitalization index was simply 35.9%. That is a basic level. We haven't yet been alive to the importance of digitalization. Digitalization is still at the initial stage. On the contrary, in the mainland China area, digitalization received a lot of attention. In Shenzhen, the GDP is 1 trillion RMB, accounting for 40% of the GDP, providing jobs to 10,000 people. Digitalization's impact on an economy is easy to be seen. It promotes prosperity of an economy. We need to expedite our digitalization pace. We have the staunch support of our motherland, and we are also connected to the world. We have a wide market. As a super connector, we need to promote interactions among different trades. So while different businesses set up presence in Hong Kong, they can also expand their businesses in different areas. GBA development is key. As an active participant in this initiative, the Hong Kong government needs to be in talks with different governments from the perspective of supply of goods, flow of people. Support should be given. We need composite talents. We need to provide sufficient talents for the market. There is robust collaboration between Hong Kong and non-English speaking countries. However, there's a lack of professional education targeting minority languages. There should be electives at university in order to enhance the linguistic proficiency of Hong Kong students. We also need to enhance the development of innovation and technology, sustainable and green development, and so on. We need to work with other jurisdictions. So forging a favorable environment shouldn't be just within the purview of one single bureau. The government needs to adopt a macro perspective. In the midst of economic transformation in Hong Kong, we need to combine our forces to provide businesses with a favorable business environment. Times are changing. Society is changing as well. We need to achieve complementarity in order to achieve synergy. That is exactly how we can promote business growth in Hong Kong. I support the motion and other amendments. Thank you.
Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Deputy President, I first thank my party colleague, Mr. Jeffrey LAM, for moving the motion. I also thank the two members for their amendments. At present, the geopolitical and economic situation in the world is highly complicated. Competition is fierce between countries. Trade protectionism is on the rise. Transitioning is happening in every industry. There is great uncertainty. We are an external economy, and we are also in a transitional period of our economy. We will face a number of challenges. But with our unique strength of one country, two systems, and enjoying the backing of the country and being connected with the world, we have great strengths. Now, the third plenum passed the resolution on comprehensively taking forward reforms and promoting modernization of the country. It lays down a modernization roadmap for the country as well as the foundation for Hong Kong's long-term prosperity. Now, the Chief Executive John Lee received a briefing by President Xi in Beijing last week. President Xi that at the cusp of unprecedented historical opportunities, Hong Kong must give full play to one country, two systems, and the Hong Kong SAR government must unite and lead all sectors in society to initiate reform and develop the economy and create new strengths and impetus for the development of the country. Now, the BPA thinks that President Xi's speech highlights the country's strong support for Hong Kong. It is a great boost of confidence for Hong Kong's future development. That's why I support the motion in that the government must launch policy measures to maintain a favorable business environment and help our industries to upgrade. Now, as a representative of the engineering sector, I have been urging the government to conduct a comprehensive review on the existing policies and regulations so as to remove red tape and enhance the approval process to help the trade lower its operational cost and enhance operational efficiency. Now, I'm pleased to see that at a meeting of the subcommittee on enhancing cost efficiency of public works, the Development Bureau has put forward 4 strategies to achieve that, including lowering the risk premium by enhancing the work model, reviewing the design standards, applying construction technologies to enhance productivity, and finally, streamlining approval process and speed up the work. Now, the Development Bureau is addressing the issue of high cost for construction materials in Hong Kong. Now, for common use materials, the government is adopting a centralized purchasing model to lower the cost for the trade, and I applaud the government's effort. However, it is not an easy task to establish a central warehouse for common use building materials. The government must allocate a plot of land for the industry to establish an industry park. On how we can develop our emerging industries and develop new impetus for growth, I've mentioned on numerous platforms that the government must actively make use of policy measures and adjustments to allocation of resources to provide more support to the industry, including talent training and collaboration between the research, academia, and industry sector, and also draw for talents and capital more aggressively. Deputy President, as a party representing the business sector, the BPA has always been adhering to the idea that the government should support businesses. The BPA just held its 12th anniversary ceremony. When making his speech, Mr. John Lee quoted a famous Chinese poem that we must endure this difficult period to scale higher heights. Now, we must make use of this opportunity to thrive. Now, the BPA urged the government to lead all business sectors to continue to develop and build a bright future for the people. Mr. Sun Yitang, Deputy President, we are seeing unprecedented changes in a century's time. Supply chain is breaking up. It brings challenges to the country's development. Now we are witnessing the 4th industrial revolution led by AI and automation. As President Xi said, this is also an opportunity for development. Now, in this new framework, we must adhere to the national strategy. We must consider our complementary advantages to embed ourselves accurately into the national development blueprint so as to tie over this wave of transitioning. And the government should match our industries with overseas counterparts. For example, more exchanges should be held with trade bodies and associations overseas and nurture a deeper collaborating relationship. We are the super connector for the country. In this under the new circumstances, we must become a connector with more impact. We should be the leaders in building a working relationship which is beneficial to all parties. Second, the government should help mainland enterprises to tap overseas and Middle Eastern markets. Now, with e-commerce and technologies, geographical constraints are no longer an issue for us to tap the further markets. Now, we should enhance the threshold for the SME export marketing scheme to benefit more SMEs. Now, the e-commerce easy scheme should be extended to more emerging economies. Now, the Export Credit Insurance Corporation should collaborate with banks to provide more credit insurance services to help SMEs to go overseas. Now, besides introducing industries under the 4 strategic industries, we have a lot of traditional industries with a strong ecosystem, for example, textiles and clothing, and also logistics, which provides a lot of support for e-commerce operators. Now, we must be proactive in terms of introducing leading enterprises in these industries to grow the impact of our industry and create a clustering effect. Now, AI and health care technology must be aligned with the other industries. We need to deepen the interchangeability and interactions between emerging industries and traditional industries to achieve the 1+1 greater than 2 effect. Now, many SMEs are birthed from the wave of a boom in the 1950s and 60s. Now they have to adapt to the changes. Now we must give full play to semi-official bodies to leverage on their flexibility in supporting the SMEs. Now, listing and financing is another bottleneck. We must expedite the listing process and lower the listing cost by digitalizing the process. We must give a free rein to the market and let it adjust itself. In the long run, we must adopt a disclosure-based listing regime to cater for the financing needs of enterprises at different stages of development. We must incentivize them to use Hong Kong as a premium listing platform. On the other hand, we must adopt various safeguards to protect the interests of small shareholders and strengthen our positions as an international and regional financial hub. Dr. Chairman Kong, Deputy President, in the submissions I made to the Chief Executive, I themed my submission on in-depth transitioning of industries. Now, the central government set targets to grow the economy steadily. Now, next year, economic development will be steady. That is the main theme. Now, since 2022, once again, expanding internal demand has been made a major task for the country. Now, the central government is set to make the 15th five-year plan, and we must not miss out on this opportunity. Now, the key is expanding internal demand. This echoes the positioning and the directions laid down under the 14th five-year plan, that is building on the geo-circulation model. Now, the internal circulation must be used as the mainstay of economic growth. Now, through reform, the country will release and unleash its consumption demand and also vitalize its markets and remove entry barriers to the domestic markets. There will be more visa-free arrangements for other countries. This will attract more foreign investors to invest in the country. Hong Kong must embed itself into this trend. Now, this motion is timely. With heightened risk from the United States, it is expected that the country and Hong Kong will face more pressure in trade conflicts and technology competition. In this background, we must draw for talents and capital. We must give play to our role as a superconnector and fight this battle, this medium to long-term battle, together with the country. We need to chart a new way forward for the country amidst this change unprecedented in the century. We must tap the emerging markets, for example, Belt and Road countries, ASEAN markets, and the Latin American markets, especially the latter. The Latin American region boasts a population of 650 million people. Now, with the free trade agreement signed with Peru, despite the mere 33 million population in Peru, the average age is just 24 years old. It is also the fifth largest trade partners with Hong Kong in the Latin American market. It is a youthful market. Now, with the FTA signed, the government should provide more active policy steering. There can be better interaction with the South American market. We must give play to our role as a multinational supply chain management hub so that more foreign enterprises can introduce, so more mainland enterprises can tap the Latin American market. Now, with the Peru ports are commissioned in Qianhai, the sea routes between the country and Peru will be shortened to 20 days. It will help us tap the Latin American market as well. The government should conduct a study on how we can strengthen logistic trade with the Southern American continent. This can boost our positions as an international financial, shipping, and trade centers. In the past, our trade markets focused on the Western markets. Now we should gradually shift it to the ASEAN, Latin American, and even Middle Eastern markets, so as to achieve full transitioning for our conventional industries. As mentioned by point 3 in the motion, the government must vigorously support the sustainable development of SMEs and help them in tapping these markets. For example, Peru. The growth of the local e-commerce market is huge. In 2025, the growth rate is expected to be 110%. E-commerce accounts for 1/5 of their market, and the internet coverage is as high as 75%. Now, with the FTA signed, the BUD fund will cover e-commerce as well. I think Southern American economies like Peru should also be covered by the BUD fund. Thank you. I shall submit.
Ms. Yong Ha Yan. President, I speak in support of Mr. Jeffrey Lam's motion on actively responding to economic transformation and maintaining a favorable business environment. We're at a critical juncture. We must maintain a favorable business environment. We need to attract enterprises and draw for talents. By that, we must develop headquarters economy and enhance collaboration with Middle East. It is an important note of the Belt and Road Initiative. They are promoting diversified economy and development on infrastructures and finance. They offer great opportunities. The chief executive visited the Middle East and signed 13 memoranda of understanding covering finance, INT, energy, transport, so on and so forth. We must leverage on this opportunity to give full play to our role as a superconnector and bridge our country with Middle East, we must introduce sovereign fund to come to Hong Kong so that we can introduce stable and long-term capital. Middle East has a lot of sovereign funds, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, and have their own bureau, and there is a lot of sovereign funds that have listed or have investment organizations in Beijing and Hong Kong that shows that they are very much interested in developing the Hong Kong and the mainland markets. The Kuwait Sovereign Fund investment increased 50 times in the mainland, and their investment in the Greater China have ranked the second in Asia or around the world. It includes secondary stock market and stock rights as well as infrastructures. These are among their investment projects. Some of the return amount to 300 times. Hong Kong is attractive to Middle East Sovereignty Fund. We have an open and free market. We have simple tax regime, comprehensive regulation, and international business environment. Hong Kong as an international asset management center, we manage $31 trillion. We also have concession on tax for family offices. So we must be proactive to showcase what advantages that we have. We must attract them to come to Hong Kong to set up headquarters in Hong Kong to bring in long-term capital so that they can bring in opportunities from the Middle East as well as their talents here. We must also encourage Middle East enterprises to set up regional headquarters in Hong Kong to leverage on our advantages on talents, risk management, legal services, and so on. We also can provide business arbitration and mediation services. The TDC can also be a platform to provide one-stop services to support mutual investment between Middle East and mainland enterprises. We must also encourage more Middle East enterprises to come list on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. This can consolidate a position as an international financial center. I also agree with what Mr. Jeffrey LAM said in the sense that we must support SMEs. They are our key pillars. That's why we need to support them. The government must make use of AI and big data to provide personalized advisory services to help them expand new markets and develop new growth areas. I talked about the development of AI commissioner so that we can promote our SMEs and our catering industries to other markets in the world. We must also provide financial assistance to SMEs. Only when the SME thrive can the economy develop. Faced with economic downturn, the government must be more proactive to create a great environment for business. Through leveraging our role as a superconnector, we must coordinate and collaborate with the Middle East to focus on having Middle East Sovereign Fund set up their presence in Hong Kong. We must maintain a favorable business environment so that we can play a greater role in the dual circulation initiative of the country. Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, President. I thank Mr. Jeffrey Lam for his motion. In order for us to transform our economy, we need policies on currency, policies, and other areas. As we have a linked exchange rate system, we cannot really leverage on a currency policy to improve our environment. It is estimated that we are going to have $100 billion of fiscal deficit. A lot of people mix a fiscal deficit with our economic situations. Against this backdrop of economic transformation, we must see how our policies affect the business environment. A lot of mature markets such as Singapore, Taiwan, Korea, UK, and Japan have fiscal deficit, and a lot of these places faced with long-term deficit. But despite their deficit, they dedicate much resources to develop their industries. We have $600 billion of reserve and $4 trillion in our foreign reserve. At this crossroad, we must industrialize our sectors, improve our revenue structure, instead of being afraid to spend. We must provide financial assistance to SMEs and enterprises. At the same time, we must create conditions for economic transformation. Northern Metropolis focuses on industry-led approach. This is an important step. The government must continue to adopt this industry-led approach to plan for infrastructures and land uses. We must also reinforce cross-departmental collaboration and establish clear guidelines on areas on how we can attract talents. We must be more efficient in attracting enterprises to set up their presence so that we can complement with our neighboring cities and speed up on our economic transformation. Another problem is the lack of consumption confidence that in turn result in people not being confident enough to invest. In recent days, there are people who say that we should reduce civil servants' pay given our fiscal deficit, but that will only further undermine people's willingness to spend. The pay for civil servants is a reference to that of the private sector. The civil servants form a big group of consumers. When we reduce the pay for the civil servants, that will further hamper the consumption market. We need more talents in Hong Kong. So I don't understand how people say that we should reduce civil servants' pay while we are trying to attract talents. We must streamline various administrative measures and introduce INT to enhance efficiency. When we freeze our establishment in the administration, we must continue to provide quality public services and lower operational costs for businesses. Without a fiscal deficit, it doesn't mean that we can continue to transform our economy. We must not be afraid for no reason. We must continue to invest in our future in order to generate revenue over the long run. We have to formulate a clear roadmap and leverage the entire community to work on economic transformation. Only by that we will be able to see the result. It's right for us to reduce spending, but that's not a long-term solution. Deputy President, I suppose speak in support of the original motion and the amendments. Mr. Kenneth Lau. President, with the weak economy and the heightened geopolitical tensions, we must continue to transform and diversify our economy. How do we maintain a favorable business environment? I agree with the 4 points set out in Mr. Jeffrey Lam's original motion. I have 3 suggestions for the administration's reference. First, we must increase our investment in INT and startups. Our pillars of economy such as financial services, tourism, logistics. All these sectors are trying to enhance their industry value by leveraging on INT. The logistics industry and trade often rely on manpower, but with the development of INT, the trade is trying to make use of more technology to reduce the reliance on manpower. Hong Kong has a free flow of information. We are in the position to develop new quality productive forces. Tourists are no longer here just to spend and have fun. They want to have immersive experience when they come to our city. So tourism development will benefit catering, transport, hotel industries alike. So I think that the government must encourage the industry to work with international INT companies to promote a transformation of R&D outcome. In September 2024, the government rolled out this $10 billion of INT fund to assist key industries to set up production lines in Hong Kong. By that, they will be able to enhance their operational efficiency and lower the cost. The government should also encourage international companies to set up their presence in Hong Kong. On the support of startups, we must provide training and financial assistance to boost the ecosystem in order to transform our economy. Also, we must enhance training for talents. Innovation is the key to economic transformation. As I mentioned, we must create different INT funds and R&D bases. This is beneficial not only to economic transformation, but also that will attract international enterprises and talents to come here. We must continue to improve the talent policies that we have and retain local talents. The government should continue to improve the talent admission schemes, for example, improving the visa policy and enhance medical services that we have. We have to help these talents have their family members integrate into the community. We must also enhance collaboration with Middle East. Middle East does not only have minerals and oil. In recent years, they're trying to transform into a more diversified economy on finance, real estate, infrastructure, and new energy. A lot of business opportunities have been generated as a result. They are the markets with the most potential in recent years. So I think that the government should develop ASEAN, Middle East countries, and they should work with Saudi Arabia capital and set up an ETO there so that we can enter the relevant market. There are a lot of wealthy people in the Middle East. So I think that we can offer asset management services, family offices management for the wealthy in the Middle East. INT, infrastructure, and tourism sectors are involved in the development of Northern Metropolis. I think that a lot of Middle East enterprises are interested. They can make use of Hong Kong as a springboard to develop the GBA market. I hope that the government will consider our proposals to find new business opportunities. I so speak in support of the amendments.
Mr. Adrian Ho. Thank you, Deputy President. I would first like to thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving the motion on actively responding to economic transformation and maintaining a favorable business environment. I speak in support of the motion. For this motion, I have consulted many of those in different trades, those working in listed companies or in the industrial or business sectors. I asked them about how they thought about the business environment. If you look at the different indices and some global rankings, Hong Kong's has all along ranked in the top few. But is there room for improvement? We do face some difficulties in recent years. We have a significant fiscal deficit. We still have much to spend in government spending. We do not make much land sale revenue. There is a need to have new sources of revenue. With new sources of revenue, we have to talk about how Hong Kong is a capital market. We have a prosperous stock market. We are an international financial center. When consulting different friends in the business sector and those working in listed companies, I asked them what they thought about the business environment, how the listed companies are doing. They said they face many challenges before, but now they see the cash flow and turnover having improved much. And in terms of listing rules, the government has made significant enhancements. In future, we should have a number of companies coming from different places to list in Hong Kong. I then asked them, what do you think we can do to improve the business environment? They said, attracting business and investment has achieved great results. But with the improvement of business environment, it has something to do with improving legislation, improving regulation so as to have a more prosperous financial market. They gave me some advice. In future, HKEX will have some improvements in corporate governance, and they have issued some consultation papers on the terms of non-executive directors. They will be putting a cap. And there will be restrictions on independent executive directors' terms. Some think this is a good direction to take. Because for listed companies, the independent executive directors would be a representative of minority shareholders, and they should speak for the minority shareholders. If we have too many restrictions, however, it can be inflexible. So for the medium and small size firms, they will be affected. If there are hard restrictions on removing those who have served for a term, some said it would be very hard to replace them. And as I said earlier, it's not very flexible. For the long-term benefit of companies, if we have an independent non-executive director, it would be ideal. So in consultation, I believe people want more non-executive directors, but they also want flexibility for the listed companies so as to enhance governance. Some of them said it does not have to be a hard restriction for a 9-year term for directors. Perhaps it can be 1/3 or half of the directors would have to conform to the requirement, but the others don't have to. That would provide some flexibility. I think flexibility is very important, especially in face of competition from neighboring regions. I urge the government to consider my suggestions. Thank you. Mr. Champula. Thank you, Deputy President. We have uncertainties in the external environment. We have tensions in trade. We have various geopolitical problems. We have, for over 3 years, over $100 billion in fiscal deficit. I thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving the motion so that we can exchange our views on how to enhance competitiveness of Hong Kong. We need talents to improve the economy and enhance competitiveness. We have been competing for talents all along. We have many policies to compete for talents since 2022. We have over 160,000 talents coming to Hong Kong along with their families. We have rose to the 9th place in the world rankings, but we seem to have only limited sources of talents, and some talents do not really have jobs that can fully develop their talents. We should do something about that. The resolution adopted in the 3rd plenary session said that Hong Kong is to become an international hub for high-caliber talents. We need to have talent policies that are constantly improving and have regard to the local circumstances. I all along think if we have good prospects in business, we should be able to attract talents to come to Hong Kong to live and work. But we have not as diverse economy. We do not do well in the economy at the moment, we may not have the conditions that would be beneficial for talents. We have been developing AI, big data, life and health, science, fintech, new materials, and advanced manufacturing. We have all along needed R&D talents, and we would also need talents that can help us develop the Middle Eastern and emerging markets. We need talents who are well versed in their culture and legal systems so as to develop such markets. When reviewing manpower policies, the government needs to have regard to the needs of emerging industries in order to find the right talents. Mr. Rob Chen urged the government to review existing policies, remove restrictions, enhance the vetting and approval process, and reduce compliance and operating costs. We have stringent regulation in Hong Kong. It is beneficial for enhancing competitiveness of Hong Kong and enhancing governance, but then it has also caused a burden on companies. And for HKFRS 17 on contracts since 1st of January 2023, it has become effective. For insurance companies, there is more complex reporting standard for accounting reports, and companies have to pay millions or even tens of millions of dollars to engage accountants to make sure they can conform to the relevant standard. It is a burden on the companies, increasing their costs in compliance. In the banking sector and the securities sector, with anti-money laundering regulation being more stringent, there are more standards put in place within companies to make sure they can conform to the relevant requirements. I understand that increased regulation is a world trend, but having regard to the existing economic situation, the government can strike a balance in streamlining the procedures so as to reduce the compliance costs of companies. Lastly, Deputy President, I would like to say this in response to the economic transformation. We have observed many businesses closing, and this is seen by the public as well. We have seen shops closing. Even major companies can't survive. The small and medium-sized firms may face even greater pressure. While we try to seek change, the government should provide adequate support for companies to transform themselves. I speak in support of the motion and the amendments I so submit. President, Mr. Tony Tse, thank you. As I said in yesterday's discussions on the construction industry security of payment bill, Hong Kong and the construction industry in particular face difficulties at the moment. We have less projects now for works, especially in public works projects. And with less projects, there is cutthroat competition. Many companies are now facing cash flow problems, and it is harder for them to get loans from banks. We now have some decreasing their wages paid to staff members. Some companies may even go into liquidation. Some in the industry said the situation is even worse than 2 to 3 years before when we were in the pandemic. They do not see any way out. So some have suggested that the government should take forward less works projects to lower the fiscal deficit. But I object to this because this will hurt the construction industry, which has over 300,000 workers. It will also make the economy take a hit. As for private development, some said developers were not willing to invest in the development of the metropolis, and in turn that would mean that they are not supportive of the government and they are not patriotic. I do not agree with this. Why is it that we have had unsuccessful tendering exercises? I have talked about my hypothesis for the reasons behind. I have urged for reforms to the currently stiff regime on the land premiums, as well as risk allocation with companies. I urge the government to discuss with potential bidders or other stakeholders to gauge their views on their pain points and the potential challenges they may face. The government should play the role of a facilitator instead of just a regulator or a bystander. I'm glad that the government has taken my advice. In the Northern Metropolis, they would adopt the approach of large-scale land disposal. With uncertainties in the external environment, this approach would encourage more participation of companies. I would also urge the stakeholders to give their views to the government for reference. Some said this approach would be a form of corruption. That is the government working with companies. But I would say this. This is beneficial for the collaboration between the government and the business sector. The government can work with other sectors, such as the retail sector or tourism sector, but then with the real estate sector, collaboration suddenly becomes collusion. Mr. Rock-Chan talked about doing a comprehensive review of existing policies, legislative framework, monitor effectiveness, enhance vetting and approval process, remove restrictions, reduce compliance and operating costs. I have been advocating for this in the construction industry for quite some time. I have seen in many industries they are now making the same demands. It seems that more are recognizing where the problem lies and have urged the government to make improvement. I think there is no change with the conduct of government officials that has worsened the situation of industries, and we really have to reflect on this. President, I so submit, speaking in support of the motion and amendments.
Mr. Chen Kim-po, geopolitical tensions are set to worsen next year. We used to rely on the European and American markets, but that's the past. In the years to come, we must be ready for more challenges and obstacles. Given this, sectors, industries need to adapt. I thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for his motion and also the other members for their amendments so that we can put our heads together and think about ways to improve the local business environment and help local businesses. I fully support Mr. Jeffrey LAM's measures, including attracting businesses, improving talent policies, support for SMEs, and also improving policies about doing business. I want to highlight the amendment from Mr. Rock-Chan. I support the idea that the government should fully review its existing policies, frameworks, and regulatory regimes. We do need to look at room for removing restrictions, streamlining procedures, and lowering compliance procedures so that businesses can operate with greater efficiency. We need to further enhance the business environment. Take the insurance industry, more and more rules, IFRS 17 risk-based capital regime, and also protection for policyholders. The insurance sector told me business is getting harder. More and more rules means the sector is no longer competitive because it's no longer agile. We see and we get the need to stay aligned with international rules, but we need a full government review to remove and relax rules so that while we meet international rules, we also have enough flexibility for a favorable business environment. That way, the industry can develop in a sustainable way. Many factors are at play when a business cannot make a profit, but the expenses are relatively predictable. Lowering compliance costs will make life easier for businesses, and they will be under less pressure. With AI and businesses going digital, we can have less manpower, and that will lower operating costs. That can attract more firms to come here and set up their regional headquarters. Hong Kong has the backing of our country and global connections. Many firms want to use Hong Kong as a gateway to tap the enormous mainland market. But we lack mutual accreditation systems in place between the mainland and Hong Kong. Take insurers. Rules vary between the mainland and Hong Kong when it comes to insurance. So for our insurers seeking to go to the mainland, they have to meet Hong Kong's local rules and also meet the mainland's requirements. Hong Kong insurers have to come up with two sets of financial statements to meet the two sets of different rules and compliance rules, and that drives up compliance costs enormously. Having a single set of rules will slash the costs. So for the government, please talk to the mainland insurance authorities. Can we have mutual recognition so that we have real market mutual access, so that we bring in more outside businesses to come here? And we need more tax concessions so that we can bring in top-notch talent from far and wide, and that will drive development and innovation, so that Hong Kong can stand out in the fierce global competition, and that Hong Kong can become this global risk management center. Thank you. Professor Priscilla Leung. President, last week we discussed the 14th five-year plan and preparing for the 15th five-year plan. I discussed both Hong Kong and Macau. Our respective roles will be to become the Silicon Valley of the East. That's the mission from our country for these two SARs. The Greater Bay Area is a source of opportunities, but the economy is slowing down with complex geopolitical landscape. Industries are facing enormous struggles. In keeping with President Xi Jinping's strategy about the GBA, there's one area where I worked with other NPC delegates. We proposed turning GBA into a corporate restructuring center for the world, and this means for firms in financial distress but still has potential for regeneration, we want to rescue them. We want to propose more suitable legal procedures and preferably one-stop services for these firms in distress, so that these firms will be in a better position to pay off their debt and keep going. Making that work will open up a new world for this business. Corporate restructuring is now mostly concentrated in the US, the UK, and Singapore. Hong Kong has a robust legal system. We have professional talent, first-rate talent, in fact. We are on a par with those countries I just named. But let's get our direction right. Let's first be aware of where we have an edge. The GBA belongs to the same country. We have two different systems, three jurisdictions. We have the civilian law system and also the common law tradition in the same area. This means here we can serve firms in different systems and jurisdictions. The global economy is slowing down. Many firms are considering restructuring or going bust. So Hong Kong has the institutional edge for this business. We also have an edge in our industries. We are an international financial center. That's among the 8 centers under the 14th five-year plan. Shenzhen is a leader in innovation and technology. So let's team up with Shenzhen and Guangzhou and go global together. We have an edge in our industries. My third point is we have different organizations. The International Organization for Mediation will be headquartered in Hong Kong. We also have arbitration services here. We also have GBA lawyers well versed in common law, in international law, and commercial law. So where dispute resolution is involved in corporate restructuring, we have an edge. Other members discussed other sectors like insurance. Insurers can play a role. The same goes for accounting. Many NPC delegates have a legal background, so we first propose the edge we have in legal services. The challenge before us is awareness. On corporate restructuring, some industries may be in decline. We want to help them. There may be investors, global investors, looking in the GBA. How do we bring them together? Our laws also fail to keep up. We have many GBA lawyers, that's true, but we need a standard set of rules that may require a decision from the NPCSC to inject vibrancy into the market. We still face constraints. We also lack mechanisms for cooperation. We have yet to standardize laws and rules. Corporate restructuring is a way to ensure tax revenue, create jobs, and bring business. Let's give it more thought. I so submit. Mr. Edmund Wong. President, Mr. Jeffrey LAM proposed this motion on actively responding to economic transformation and maintaining a favorable business environment. This is timely. You ask SMEs how they are doing, more than 95% will tell you they are having a hard time. They made it through COVID, but they're not sure whether they can survive this one. People worry about health problems. In business, people are also worried about different things: rent, wages, costs. If businesses have enough business volume, they can continue to invest, but then post-COVID, a massive change has happened in people's spending patterns, and SMEs are now struggling. They cannot find a favorable business environment. Ms. Doreen Kong mentioned claw machines recently. I checked out those machines myself. It's now an industry. Those machines come up because investors need to cope with the challenges. In busy districts, the costs are high, but claw machines don't need a lot of workers, so you don't have to worry about wages. And because there are tricks with the claws, those investors manage to find a new niche with those claw machines. In the early days of economic transition, we are facing structural problems. Wages and rents will probably stay high, and since we have the linked exchange rate system, that's bad for SMEs. Not everyone can invest in the new economy. In the past, we relied on a big market with a small government. That cannot go on today. Now, the government needs to take the initiative and support businesses. Mr. Jeffrey Lam's motion and the amendments contain many proposals. Different bureaus in the government have also rolled out different measures to draw capital here and foster local economic growth. We can all see that. Now, for listing, more companies are here for listing, more family offices. And we can probably become a major cross-boundary wealth management center. With all these family offices and capital, we are doing worse in other areas. Some real estate agents told us in the first quarter, look at 4 major areas, 874 vacant stores, up 154 stores from before. Vacancy rate 11.7%. Record high in 3.5 years. The surveying firm's report also told us since 2019, our office vacancy rate is at a record high. The rent also fell by 40%. By 2027, our office vacancy rate will be at 17%. The figures show as capital came here, little difference has been made for the real economy. We don't want claw machines all over Nathan Road. We don't want grade A offices left idle. We don't want that. We will have to help businesses. Here's my suggestion. Many places seeking to draw tourists create special zones. In Seoul, they have their special area. Over weekends, people visit the area. So, can our government here take the lead? Can we team up with businesses? Let's work with owners in places like Yaojiamong, where they have many vacant stores. Can we use those vacant shops and offer something like a signature program? Can we have neon light signboards? And we lease out those vacant stores for specialty cafes, restaurants, retail stores offering local signature product. Mr. Rock Chen's amendment and Mr. Chen Kin-po, Professor Priscilla Leung, called for relaxing our rules because our compliance costs are very high. The same goes for the accounting sector. Many people told us they are facing a high compliance cost. I know the government doesn't want to see that, but we need policies to do something about it. We need high-quality capital here. And more, let's support SMEs in traditional industries so that they can survive. The government needs to listen to stakeholders, adopt new thinking, and create a favorable business environment.
Mr. Jimmy Ng. Now, I'll first talk about the business environment. Now, a questionnaire on the business prospects was announced last week, and 43% of the businesses were pessimistic about the economic prospects. And then people becoming more cautious. That's because there are global uncertainties in the political arena, and then there's also global transformation of the economy. So that brings about many uncertainties. Now, some time ago, when Mr. John Lee, the chief executive, was interviewed on radio, he said there's need to transform the economy. The spending pattern has changed for visitors and the locals, and our neighboring cities are advancing rapidly, so we need to reform, otherwise we will be phased out. Well, we don't need to be that pessimistic. When there are challenges, there are always opportunities. We just need to be brave to embrace changes, and then we'll be able to improve further. Now, we want to keep our position as an international financial center. We must keep providing enabling environment so people have confidence in making investment. I think we can consider 4 areas. One, bringing in businesses. Now, for this term, the government has been proactive. It's launched various measures. It tries to develop a headquarter economies, attracting strategic enterprises to Hong Kong. So capital is brought to Hong Kong. It's also a show of confidence in Hong Kong. We recently signed a free trade agreement with Peru, and the sector welcomed that. So FTA could promote a headquarters economy, and more capital we brought to Hong Kong to open up more markets. And then Hong Kong could also contribute to high quality of opening up for the country. The other area is attracting talent. The chief executive in the interview said that in the past we said we would attract talent. Now we troll for talents. We compete for talents. We snatch talents. In other words, snatching other people's things of properties is of course not good, but snatching for talent is good. Well, after we bring talents to Hong Kong, we need to retain them. So it's about providing them with the various support services, housing, education for children, and there must be room for career development before talents will stay. So the policy address said that we have to we will develop a universities of applied sciences. That's a progressive approach, and then there could also be on-the-job training courses, so people could improve their qualifications while they work. And then third area is innovation. Innovation is the driver for economic development, so we can't save on investment in innovation. So we need to consider the positioning of the new industrialization subsidy scheme, we have to consider the ratio of the matching grant and expand the scope of the scheme. And then we could cover the overseas business of local enterprises too. And the fourth area, now we have been developing various rules and regulations to ensure orderly development. But then when we face transformation, we need to make changes. That's why there have been calls for deregulation frequently these days. Now, if we want to now that we've noticed that there are many policy bureaus are trying to tighten the rules on, say, listed companies and various industries. Well, it's good that there are rules. At the same time, we need to strike a balance between economic development and our attractiveness to foreign capital. So I hope the government will strike a balance. Now, the government wants to build this study in Hong Kong brand, and they want students to come here to study. We know there are many vacant industrial premises, so we could relax the rules and convert these spaces into hostels for students, and they will be attractive students because of the industrial field. So I must stress that deregulation is an important point in relation to attracting strategic enterprises. So we need to be careful when we impose rules. Thank you. Mrs. Regina Ip. Thank you, President. I thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving this very important motion on Mr. Jeffrey LAM represents the Hong Kong Chambers of Commerce. I believe many of his views actually reflect the concerns and the views of the business sector. Now, we want to promote economic development, and of course, we have to promote new quality, the development of new quality productive forces. But as we do so, we must not undermine Hong Kong's position as an independent customs territory. What does that mean? That means we have our own customs regime. In Hong Kong, we have a zero tariff policy. And then for different commodities and goods, there is an independent regulation. In Hong Kong, that's very important. We need to let the international community see that we have an independent regulatory regime. Otherwise, it will undermine our position as an independent customs territory. And then our membership in the WTO, that is World Trade Organization, and the World Customs Organization. Now, these are areas where the government takes very seriously. On the 10th of December, there was a seminar on combating anti-money laundering in Hong Kong, and the Secretary for Justice spoke at the seminar. He said that when it comes to combating anti-money laundering, drug trafficking, infringement of intellectual property and so on, in Hong Kong we make sure we comply with the international standards, in particular that's the requirement of the G20 working group. So we must not undermine international confidence in us in that respect. Otherwise, it will undermine our position as an international center. Now, if we want to bring more businesses and talents to Hong Kong, now we often publish figures. As the Secretary pointed out, we now have 2,700 family offices, more than that in Singapore, and they've invested some $15 million, and then we also have 60 strategic enterprises here. At the same time, we need to promote the advantage of one country, two system to other parts of the world. And that the one advantage of the one country, two systems is the common law jurisdiction. So, and then we are ranked rather high up among common law jurisdictions. Now, in world justice, our ranking actually is higher than that for the United States. And in Asia, we're always the number one. And then we are an open and inclusive society. We respect human rights. we also ranked rather high in terms of protection of human rights. So if we just quote economic data, that's not enough. I hope in future when the government publicizes Hong Kong, they must stress the advantage of one country, two systems. Now, with protection of human rights and judicial independence, so I believe Hong Kong certainly is ranked high up in Asia. We fare much better than many of our competitors. And on the government's effort in promoting economic development and bringing in businesses, people always criticize them for their promotion strategy. Now, I'd like to speak on that. There are two departments responsible for public relations promotion. That is the Information Services Department. Now, for example, the director of Information Services, I'm Mrs. Liu, and I think every year she probably did 12 or director in recent years now, and in fact the director changes every other 2 years. She's of course an experienced AO, but is she really an expert on publicity and promotion? And then the director of broadcasting is also the other important person to promote Hong Kong, but then we don't actually have experts on public relations taking up leading these two departments, and I think that will affect the way we promote Hong Kong. So as we try to promote economic development, we must not forget to emphasize our two systems. Thank you. Please stop. Mr. Peter Shiu. Thank you, President. I would like to thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving this motion on actively responding to economic transformation and maintaining a favorable business environment. Now, we are seeing unprecedented changes around the world in a century, and different countries are trying to target us. And in the past few years, exporters and those doing trade with other countries tell us that it's really tough now trying to get orders from Europe and the States, and they are struggling with their business. Now the country's policy is to develop the Belt and Road initiative, and there are also emerging markets, say in the Middle East and South America. So I would like to thank the Secretary and the Financial Secretary for going on trips to promote Hong Kong frequently. So that will help our exporters in and the trade business in Hong Kong, so they could develop new markets. Now we need to troll for talents and bring in businesses. That is the broad direction for all countries to promote their economic development. And that's what the government advocates. But in terms of concrete actions, we're told that there were 180,000 applications, 120,000 of those have been approved, and some 100,000 people are here already. Now we have the advantage of being close to mainland talents. At the same time, we need to bring in talents from other parts of the world. There are for many countries, because of the black-clad violence, people may have certain views of Hong Kong, so we need to tell good stories about Hong Kong and the country, and then people will have confidence, and then talents will come here. And then now for headquarters set up in Hong Kong last year, 9,960 companies, overseas office or headquarters set up in Hong Kong, and I think we can tell people about that too. And then Hong Kong is again the third largest international financial center. So with our advantage, we should be able to bring in talents and businesses. As for SMEs in Hong Kong, well, because of cross-boundary e-commerce development, you can see that the retail sector has been hard hit. And we keep reminding the SME sector that the government has the e-commerce easy scheme, so they could work together with the Greater Bay Area, and then we could promote our products, not just to the mainland, but to the emerging markets that I mentioned just now. So there are business opportunities. Now we want to keep a good business environment. Operating costs, of course, is a matter of concern. The Undersecretary said that since last year we've been able to import labor from the Greater Bay Area. That really helps. But then businesses are already struggling, and then they have to pay $9,600 to the Hong Kong government, SAR government, for training, and then we have to provide accommodation for imported workers. That means costs are still high, so many businesses are deterred. I think the government has to think about that. On the retail sector, well, cross-bound business visitors will bring business to the retail sector too. And now Shenzhen has resumed the multiple visit scheme. In the past 2 weeks, we see many visitors going around in Hong Kong, and we see that's been surge in business. And that certainly will help the retail sector in the transformation. But I must mention that some are worried that people may come here just to work illegally, especially say in the renovation sector. And people may buy products from the mainland, and then these people come on the multiple visit visa to do the assembly, and it's hard for us to crack down on such activities. Now, if people come often, say a week, once a week, that's fine. But if they come every day, I think the government needs to pay attention to that. Thank you.
Dr. Tan Yueheng. Thank you, President. I thank Mr. Jeffrey Lam for moving the motion. I very much agree with what he said about attracting business and investment, because it is only with new capital and diversified business that we can develop Hong Kong as an asset management center. How can we attract business and investment better? I would like to make 2 points. We need to have a private equity system. We have direct equity. And other part is equity fund. We have an advanced banking system, and with the raising of capital, we have a good system for that, for listing as well. But we are still lagging behind on equity funds. We do not have a system. We should advance development in this area to address our shortcomings. This will help us develop as an international financial center. With a more comprehensive equity fund system, we should be able to attract more companies and talents to come to Hong Kong. Not long before, Professor Sun Dong said at a panel on commerce, industry, innovation and technology meeting, they talked about a 10 billion INT industry-oriented fund. The aim is to realize research and development outcomes, but this effort would also demonstrate that the setting up of such fund would be an important part of addressing shortcomings of Hong Kong by setting up an equity fund system. So we really need to develop INT, but we also need to make the financial system more comprehensive. Right now, the government has the industry-oriented fund. As I said earlier, it would be $10 billion. We also have the INT Venture Fund. We also have the Hong Kong Investment Corporation's funds. These are the 3 categories. We need coordination. We shouldn't be working in a fragmented manner. We really need coordination in development of funds. Next, I want to talk about attracting new capital. Traditionally, we are an international financial center. We are a hub for global capital. Mainland enterprises and overseas enterprises would raise capital in Hong Kong. But we need capital now in the local market, so we need to have some way of attracting capital to Hong Kong. We need to make sure there is integration with the funding platform in Hong Kong. We are a super connector. We need to connect those who are providing such supply and who has demand for such products. So we need to develop our platform in order to attract capital to Hong Kong. The ASEAN countries are doing well. The Middle East is also trying to diversify their economies. They have been increasing investment in China and other countries. With Hong Kong developing the platform of the Belt and Road Initiative, we can develop the ASEAN and Middle Eastern markets. We can have Middle Eastern capital ASEAN projects and Hong Kong's platform working together. We can build bridges to have Middle Eastern capital go into the ASEAN countries' projects. We can also have capital directed to develop Hong Kong's INT platform. With Hong Kong as a platform, we can consolidate Hong Kong's status as an international financial center. I so submit speaking in support of the motion and amendments. Thank you, President. Dr. Johnny I would first like to thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving the motion so that we can exchange our views on how to develop the economy. As an external economy, we face much difficulty in the recent economic situation. With rapid developments in digitalization, in AI, quantum computing, and Web3, we will see Web3 industries being the growth engine for the economy in future. I speak in support of Mr. Jeffrey LAM's motion, and I would like to share some views of the industry and the development of Web3. Right now, we are still at the beginning stage of regulation of virtual assets. We need to remove restrictions so that Web3 and virtual asset companies can develop in Hong Kong. Starting from 2022, we have been promoting licensing for virtual assets. We now have 7 approved firms that can trade in virtual assets. We have 4 approved yesterday alone. But we have heard in the industry saying that with virtual asset regulation in Hong Kong, it is quite stringent and it is not conducive to the development of the virtual assets in Hong Kong. It has really dampened investor sentiment in investing in virtual assets in Hong Kong. So I urge the government to promote diversification of products of virtual assets, allowing institutional investors to invest in products and have new products, and allowing real-world assets to undergo secondary trading. I believe with Web 3.0 projects, we really need to promote realization of DAO. And right now with Web 3.0 technologies development, we have the main professional body, DAO, as regulatory body. Unlike traditional regulators, they would work as fund offices in Switzerland and Middle East. They have been looking into such legislation and have companies go there. I believe if we can have such scheme in Hong Kong, the companies are willing to adopt Hong Kong legislation, so we can look into it. We should also develop Hong Kong's role as an INT hub. We have traditional advantages. We have free flow of capital and information. the country also supports Hong Kong to become an international INT center. It is really conducive to the development of tokenization. I have also submitted a motion to the central authority so that top-notch mainland enterprises could have the tokenization models to attract international capital to invest in Hong Kong. I have also raised in my motion that Hong Kong should work with other cities of the Greater Bay Area to have a Web3 pilot zone to create impetus for growth in the industry. I believe Hong Kong as a premier stock market, in future, it will also become a premier destination for virtual asset trading. Lastly, we have to take an investing perspective to encourage the development of Web3. HKIC has been participating in different ventures of INT, and I think investment corporation should also make sure that we include Web3 as one of the categories of companies that they should strategically invest in. So as to increase investment in the area, we should also have fund managers manage the relevant projects so as to develop the industry further. How can we find new opportunities in response to economic transformation is our goal in future. We can make good use of the Web3 industry as a growth engine to develop the economy further. I so submit. Mr. Tang Fei. I speak in support of Mr. Lam's motion and the amendments proposed. I thank Mr. Lam for moving the motion so that we can exchange our views on this issue. I have observed something quite interesting. I believe many members of the public also observed this. Let's be pragmatic here. The government has done much in publicity and promotion, but the members of the public and the market don't really feel the efforts done by the government. Let me give an example. You are saying that you have much capital coming in, and the turnover of the stock market or the asset value is over $40 trillion, and we also have many overseas enterprises coming to Hong Kong. But in the financial summit held recently, one of the currency issuing banks, they have had staff cuts, and this is of concern to many investors. We have over 2,000 family offices in Hong Kong. But the problem is we have seen many SMEs close as well. We have also seen many top-notch INT enterprises come to Hong Kong. We have also seen the government allow different tiers of talents to come to Hong Kong, including the lower skilled talents. But then the industries or the different sectors are still complaining of manpower shortage. We have been promoting cross-boundary e-commerce, but then there is inadequate demand even in the mainland. For 11th of November, for 3 consecutive years, in the mainland, they have seen declining sales. So I think we have seen conflicting views or conflicts between the reality and expectations. We want to have capital promote the development of the market. We also want more enterprises to come to Hong Kong to create more job opportunities to contribute to the GDP, but it does not seem to have much effect on the economy at the moment. So I, as a layman, I will offer some advice. I think the government can have an authority that is akin to the National Development and Reform Commission, that is an interdepartmental body that will help make preparations for the National 15th Five-Year Plan. And we are in conflict with the United States mainly. We will have that body address the potential risks of geopolitics. And recently, the U.S. has released Ministry of Commerce has released a document advancing national security in the Department of Commerce in 10 years. So in 10 years, they will have a strategy for advancing national security. I have research in the Cold War. I haven't seen since the Cold War the US would have something similar. I believe this is to target China, its main rival. So if the US indeed promulgates such policies, what we should do, we should really formulate an approach to address this. We shouldn't wait until they strike. We need to make preparations in advance. In the Chief Executive's policy address, it is said that we will develop gold and commodities trading. I think this is an innovative approach. We can promote the different industries by developing gold and commodities trading. We will be able to make some contributions to the economy. And as Dr. Johnny said, we can develop virtual asset trading further. While Donald Trump, the president-elect of the United States, was against cryptocurrencies, but now he is for cryptocurrencies. He's thinking about linking that with the US dollar. So this may have a long-term impact. This should generate more economic benefits for the US. We should really think about this. The resolution adopted in the third plenary session talked about having 3 centers and a hub. Your time is up, Mr. Chen Yong.
多謝局長副
Thank you, President. I also thank the officials joining us. I thank Mr. Jeffrey Lam for his motion on actively responding to economic transformation and maintaining a favorable business environment. I also thank Mr. Rock Chen and Dr. Simon Lee for their respective amendments. Many members share their insights. I agree with them. We all want a swift economic recovery. My focus is about cutting red tape, enhancing vetting procedures to foster a favorable business environment. Mr. Rock Chen, also from the DAB, stressed this point in his amendment. We look at the current policy framework. It's not just about the areas for the 2 officials here. Let's take a look at all our policy areas. Let's look for room where we can relax restrictions for greater efficiency in approval. Let's look at our central authorities. We NBC delegates hold meetings. We hear all the time the point about one-stop service, faster, better, greater results, fostering economic growth, etc. Say you have a marathon. This person is doing fine. But then, given the global landscape, there are economic volatilities, there are evil US politicians trying to do more bad things on top of existing sanctions. They want not just hold us down. The incoming president will double down on those efforts. So how do we help this marathon runner? How do we help take the load off this runner so that this person runs faster? Now let's look at our stock market and property market. Are we overregulating the market? Let's look at that. Look at New York City and Singapore. How are we doing vis-a-vis those rivals? Are we going further in regulation than those cities? If yes, then we are making our own life harder. So let's scale back that work while maintaining safety and stability. We need to look at where we can scale back and reduce the burden so that market players can save resources. Streamlining procedures also means we can freeze hiring for departments. That means less work for existing civil servants, and that will mean greater efficiency. We're in a race. Every bit of advantage counts. Now, I'm from the sector of national organizations, NPC, CPPCC. We've been trying to get firms to get listed here. But during that wait, we realized the US offers more favorable terms, a simpler regulatory regime. That happened time and again. That's bad for us. So we should show efficiency. We should show people we can get things done at speed. When you fill out a form, it's a professional, it's a school of skills. Take the FEHD as an example. Social enterprises have to fill out forms. You have 2 inspectors from the FEHD. Even they struggle to fill out the forms. So we have to cut down on paperwork, make things simple, to slash the costs for people in business. Only then we can get a competitive advantage, and then we can go from stability to prosperity, and then we will see faster, better results and meet the chief executive's goals. Professor William Wong. Thank you, President. I thank Mr. Jeffrey Lam for his motion on actively responding to economic transformation and maintaining a favorable business environment. We're facing a major economic struggle. The fiscal deficit is said to be more than $100 billion. This motion is timely. The government should help businesses navigate economic transition. Businesses need to adopt new technology and be flexible in using that. The government plays a key role in promoting the innovation and technology. The government should promote collaboration of academia, industry, research, industry, and investors to drive innovation across the board. The government makes policies on INT and can play a role in supporting businesses. The current term government has done much. A lot of money has been earmarked for INT development. We've also made progress in cross-boundary data flow with the mainland, and that means more favorable business environment. With Donald Trump about to come into office, friction in trade and technology between China and the US will worsen. So given this change in the global landscape, we have to face up to the challenge, and this will require ongoing effort. It will be tough. The Raise Plus scheme was rolled out by the SAR government to foster investment and participation from the INT industry, as well as research from universities. This can help industries achieve upgrading and transformation. The business environment is not just about the government alone. Businesses also have to play their part. On the academia, our universities' achievements speak for themselves. We have 5 of the world's top 100 universities. They do well in scientific research. The government offers massive support for the transformation of R&D outcomes. The strategy is to drive economic growth through innovation, but universities are not good at doing business. Even with government funding, universities need help with applying for patents. Hong Kong is a trading center of intellectual property rights, but this patent trading system has yet to take shape. We did not focus on this area. We're short of such professionals. The government needs to turn things around with the low trading level of patents. Let's train patent professionals. We have to let those products become something that drives the economy. The use of AI matters. I've been calling for an AI Plus plan to drive the adoption and development of AI in Hong Kong. Government departments can use AI-based tools to boost efficiency. And that can shorten the processing time when industries apply for government funding. We have our country's support with global connections. Opportunities exist alongside challenges. Let's assess the situation. Let's face up to challenges. We should rely on INT, improve our business environment, and we will be able to get out of this difficult spot. I so submit. I support the motion and the amendment. Mr. Eric Yim. Thank you, President. I support Mr. Jeffrey Lam's motion and the amendments from the two members. We are the Pearl of the Orient. We are where people do business. We help mainland businesses go global. We bring in overseas enterprises. Now, from the Ministry of Commerce, the figures show, as at the end of 2023, 1.75 trillion yuan was invested in Hong Kong. Hong Kong also invested 1.6 trillion yuan in the mainland, and that's more than half of the foreign external investment in China. And this highlights Hong Kong's key role in this landscape. Our status as a global trade center is facing challenges. Government figures show, as at the end of this year, we have 9,960 companies with headquarters overseas. But in terms of regional headquarters, that's 3,000 or something, 3,800, down 500 or so from years ago. E-commerce is on the rise. Decentralization is around. Businesses bypass Hong Kong. With geopolitical complexities and the US and Europe trying to hold us down, we are affected. But we have to be alive to our unique status. The Fraser Institute released the Economic Freedom of the World 2024 annual report. Hong Kong was rated as the world's freest economy. That affirms Hong Kong's role as a free and open economy. Our country is pursuing high standard opening up, and that means bright prospects for Hong Kong. Hong Kong's government needs to face up to the challenges, and this means taking actions to improve Hong Kong's business environment. And there are 4 areas we should focus on. 1, strengthening our role as an international trade center. Let's leverage our common law system to strengthen investors' confidence. Let's offer legal safeguards, offer a predictable environment so that we draw capital here. We should help the mainland's firms go global, and we should gather talent from far and wide. Let's create this platform for international collaboration and help our mainland businesses tap the global market. We should work on this role as a hub for international top-notch talent. Through the Top Talent Pass scheme, let's bring in talent for businesses so that we drive economic growth. 3, the Hong Kong Investment Corporation should play a greater role. Let's tap new business opportunities. Let's invest in more areas and tap new markets. Finally, let's boost consumption. Let's improve our service quality and encourage firms to innovate so that we foster their transformation and achieve sustainable development. Ensuring our stability and prosperity is a common goal. Let's all work together and face up to the challenges to drive our economic transformation and improve our business environment. I so submit.
Ms. Doreen Kong. President, I speak in support of the motion moved by Mr. Jeffrey LAM. We need a free and open business environment for bringing in investment. But then free economy is often misunderstood as laissez-faire. But actually, it's about the government providing the just right regulation and control. And then in Hong Kong, the government and the markets must work closely together in harmony. And the government needs to know its position well. It has to respect market rules, but at the same time, it has to play an active role in leading and development and regulating development. So now, the government may introduce policies. If these are inconsistent, of course, then businesses will be baffled, and that will disrupt the market expectation and undermine investor confidence. And then also, we must not go against the market rules, and when government formulates policies, it has to be visionary. It has to make sure policies are harmonized. And whether it's a taxation policy or regulatory measures, they must be kept simple and specific. And so businesses know what the policy framework is, and then they will have confidence to make investment and plan for the long term. Now, we have a low taxation regime. That's our advantage, and that's why we have always been among the top economies. But then given the current complex situation, a low taxation regime is not enough. The Hong Kong needs to explore its other unique advantages. Hong Kong has a highly internationalized business network. We have robust financial and monetary regime, and we are open and inclusive, and all these are advantages, and together they could help us nurture new emerging industries such as innovation technology and high-end services. Now, talent is a core element for promoting economic development, so we have to be very careful in striking the right balance between quantity and quality. Now, if we want to ensure we have sufficient talent, first there must be sufficient opportunities. And we have to consider whether we have sufficient resources to support the the influx of a large number of talents. As we try to attract talents, we have to make sure they are of a high quality. We must make sure that these talents suit the needs of our development. So the government needs to review the situation of talents who've arrived in Hong Kong through the various admission schemes in the past few years. They must track the development of these talents, and then they could plug any loopholes in policies or adjust their policy direction as necessary. Now, another point is about streamlining any approval process. It's important for business. For example, when we apply for a restaurant license here in Hong Kong, is a far more complex process compared to that in other places. And then we need to comply with FHD and the buildings department and many other requirements. And then many of the cultural and tourism resources are not put to good use because of the various licensing regime. Now, the government will streamline the process as announced in the 2023 policy address. That will be a good start. So there's need to reduce cumbersome processes, and we must deregulate to lessen the burden on SMEs. There must also be targeted support measures. We have to consider different industries and the different scales of business, and then we can tailor-make support measures, and then we can help SMEs to upgrade without hiccups. Now, we need to respond proactively to economic transformation, and then Hong Kong can go for high quality development. So both government and different sectors have to work together to face the challenges and seize the opportunities. I so speak. Mr. Lee Chun Kang. Thank you, President. If we consider the angle of economics, every government has the duty to provide an enabling business environment. This has always been the policy of Hong Kong. Now that we have restored normalcy and we are moving from stability to prosperity, but then there are external political factors, and so our economy has not been recovering as we have wished. And Mr. Jeffrey Lam's moved this motion. This is an opportunity for us to brainstorm, and then together we could offer suggestions on boosting our economy. Now, I think we have to further enhance the talent policy. I'm all for that, but then we need to do a proper job in making in gatekeeping to make sure that we will bring in the talents we need. There is no need for applications to be made through intermediaries under the various talent admission schemes. So in Xiaohongshu, Weibo or Douyin and all the popular social media, the government could do more publicity so that they will stamp out the unlawful intermediaries. And then for the labor importation scheme and supplementary labor importation scheme, there's need to apply through intermediaries. So I hope the government would talk to the main authorities to make sure that there is due diligence checking on these intermediaries to stamp out any fraud. Now, the motion also suggests giving support to SMEs for the conducive development, help them to open up new markets so they could adapt to the changes in the business environment. I support all these measures. Now, there's in 1996 there's a scheme on helping businesses. For example, there's the regulation or removal of outdated control, and then speeding up of licensing process and so on. So now is it the time for us to consider further how we could improve these areas to make Hong Kong more attractive to businesses and talents. Now, instead of paper-based applications, we can use electronic applications, and many of the big data is already connected in the cloud. So perhaps we could talk to the government, could work with various organizations to see if we could have more electronic services, and then there could be one-stop service for the public in terms of applying for licenses and so on. And then because if government has strict regulation on licensing control, it will add to business costs. There's need for the government to strike a proper balance. The government should avoid enacting new legislation to impose regulation or increase taxes. Now, the government needs to consider the legal aspect as well as the human aspect. And then we need to allow more in the private market to be involved. For example, the government needs to phase out its outdated approach. Do we still want to have short-term tenancies? Because then businesses dare not invest for the long term. That's why we have the Northern Metropolis. It will be a way out for us to address these issues. At the same time, businesses could upgrade and transform. Now we are in the stage of economic transformation. Hong Kong actually has unique advantages. Yes, the world is changing rapidly, but we must remain confident because we are backed by the country and we have the one country, two systems, which is an advantage. And then in terms of safety and security, we are ranked top around the world. And in terms of infrastructure or environmental hygiene and so on, we're also high up on the list around the world. And so, individuals and businesses are agile, they are entrepreneurial, enterprising, and that's why they have made much achievements. I hope the government will roll out more measures to help the development of SMEs. Most importantly, you need to consult the different sectors, and then we could keep a conducive business environment. and we must keep to the principle of big market, small government. And only then can we ensure the stability and prosperity of Hong Kong. Thank you. Mr. Ambrose Lam. President, the society, the Hong Kong society needs to be respond to economic transformation, but is the sector ready? I think the government needs to take the lead and lead to different sectors to respond to economic transformation. In the past, Hong Kong has served the European and U.S. markets, so we try to comply with the regulations and rules. But now the east is rising, the business environment is rapidly changing, and Hong Kong is now at a loss. But it doesn't matter how the external environment changes, the country continues to back Hong Kong. It has high expectation of Hong Kong. In the third plenary session, the country is asked for integration on two fronts, and they have to do with Hong Kong. So that is the integration, integration with the international rules and so on. And then we could, with capital flow, and with some other shipping and so on, we will then be able to make changes. Now, Hong Kong always abides by rules and regulations, and we don't have enough talents. If we want to complete our economic transformation, we must make changes as soon as possible. We need to seek and embrace changes. That's why I support Dr. Hoey Simon Lee's amendment. We need to give support to startup teams in the areas of area policies, market support, and we need to respond to economic transformation and foster development of new industries. And I also support Mr. Rock Chen's amendment that we need to deregulate. And then we need a large number of law drafting talents to help review local legislation. But then the Department of Justice does not have enough manpower, so it should outsource its review work and to speed up the regulation. Now, there is still plenty of room for development in Hong Kong, and especially in the financial sector. We need experts on shipping, finance, shipping, insurance, and so on. So we need to bring in talents. And now there's the talent list covering 51 professions, but then overseas talents won't just fly to Hong Kong just because there is a talent list. There must be headhunters working with the government to improve the vetting process, and then we could actively promote Hong Kong. So I have some suggestions for the government. First of all, now, for local businesses who want to hire overseas talents on the talent list, there could be local tax interest-free loans given to them. Now, for example, a legal team, the cost each month is over $1 million. And if we want to invest in talents, then it costs more. If the government could provide interest-free loans, then we could encourage businesses to hire overseas talents and help the transformation of business in Hong Kong. And then secondly, after we've brought talents here, we need to retain them for the long-term good of Hong Kong. So if overseas talents live in Hong Kong for more than 7 years and they succeed in applying for Chinese nationality, then we must reward their employers. And thirdly, we need to step up publicity and tell good stories of Hong Kong. In particular, we should focus on the publicity about safety in Hong Kong, freedom to drink, and then there are all sorts of entertainment activities and venues here in Hong Kong. These will be attractive to Hong Kong, and that will be a good way to counter bad mouthing of Hong Kong. And we need talents to promote development. So I hope the government will do more to bring in talents, and we must deregulate before we could promote economic transformation. Thank you.
Mr. Benson Luke, first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Jeffrey Lam for moving the motion on actively responding to economic transformation and maintaining a favourable business environment and the amendments proposed by other members. We are at a critical stage of economic transformation. Like the Chief Executive said, we have prosperous development in the neighbouring regions. If we do not do anything, we will lag behind. As the HKGCC said, 4.3 of the survey respondents said they had poor expectations for the next 12 months. The government has been doing much in trying to boost the economy and attract talents. We have received 180,000 applications, 120,000 approved in the 2024 policy address. We have also seen the policy address incorporating feedback of the BPA. We are to expand cross-boundary e-commerce to the ASEAN regions, etc. We have done well in the past. We have good principles. We have a simple and low tax regime. It is facilitating for businesses. And the government has been enhancing the tax regime and removing restrictions. Just like yesterday, we have passed a bill on the reinstatement of tax deductions for reinstatement costs of leased premises. And in fact, we have often heard companies closing down, but with closing down, it also comes with costs. For example, dismissal of staff members and the equipment that would have to be reinstated to their original condition. There is room for support for SMEs. If we can provide support to them, they may be able to start another business in future. I also thank the government for incorporating feedback of the BPA in the sense that we have now reduced liquor duty. I believe with this new measure, it will be able to boost the F&B, hotel, and retail sectors. And we have seen recently many hotels and bars reducing the prices for cocktails. And we have also seen in the market many overseas tourists coming to Hong Kong. Not only does it benefit the industries, it also benefits the public. So with removing restrictions, we have seen an actual boost to the economy. But the major part of this will be developing mega events economy, and the government has been working on this. We have seen much discussion in this regard. We have been pushing for the diversification of mega events economy. We need to undergo transformation in order to boost visitor and local spending because local consumption patterns have really changed. We did not make much change before. We did not have reference to the change of tourism patterns. Now tourists want immersive experiences, and if we want them to participate in sports events, for example, running competitions, it will be very cost effective because we can accommodate many people in these events. We have many medium to large scale running events in Hong Kong now. The government only has to do more in support in terms of publicity so as to encourage more participants to come to Hong Kong for these events, and these will often be overnight tourists. The policy address also mentioned deepening collaboration between different government departments and have more business facilitating measures. Apart from having more business facilitating measures, we need to have measures facilitating mega events. Unfortunately, I've heard from the trade that for the 4 bodies hosting marathons, they said before the end of the year they would have another marathon event. Unfortunately, the transport department said that they would object to one of the routes that they have been using for many years. Unfortunately, the event had to be cancelled as a result. I myself would like to call for more negotiations between the department and the organizer. I hope that in future the government, when promoting mega events, apart from adopting an approach of managing the events, you should also think more about removing restrictions to facilitate business and event organizers to hold events and have more economic activities to grow a bigger pie. I so submit. Dr. So Chang-Wing. With geopolitical tensions and changing consumption patterns and an increased fiscal deficit, it has brought about challenges to Hong Kong. Businesses now face much pressure in operation. It has caused pressure on the economy as well. With changes in the external environment and adjustments in the Chinese economy, We really need to diversify our economy and resolve the imbalance of focus on the economy. We should not rely only on the four traditional industries. We should develop the 8 centers to integrate into the national development. I support Mr. Lam's original motion and the other amendments proposed by members. Director Xia Baolong said Hong Kong should not only rely on our traditional advantages, we should not only rely on these, we should have more reforms. We now see the economy growing, but in certain industries, they are not doing so well. The real estate industry, the retail industry, as well as the F&B industry. For the long-term benefit of Hong Kong, we need to identify, embrace, and seek change. We should also reform ourselves. We need to develop market forces and new growth areas. I hope that the government will try to have diversified channels to attract business and investment. In fact, Hong Kong, for the first 10 months of this year, has helped 509 enterprises to come to Hong Kong. Their investment has reached $52 billion. They have created 6,000 odd positions. There are more enterprises from the mainland and overseas that will come to Hong Kong, and overseas enterprises are looking to seek opportunities in the mainland and other emerging markets. With the high quality opening up of the country, Hong Kong can make use of one country, two systems and play the role of a superconnector to help enterprises to go global, as well as have more enterprises come to Hong Kong to develop the mainland market. I urge the government to streamline and enhance the regime for attracting business and investment. To enhance the effect of doing so, we should also enhance the attractiveness of the relevant sectors. The government should also remove restrictions in various sectors to create a more favorable business environment and enhance competitiveness. In order to enhance financial security, financial regulators have, for the banking, insurance, and accountancy sectors, promulgated many governance standards to protect customers' interests, but many terms are too stringent. They are also outdated. They did not have regard to the local circumstances. That has impeded the development and has dampened the competitiveness of the industries. I urge the government to strike a balance between regulation and development, remove unnecessary restrictions for the industries that would lower the entry threshold for industries and enhance connectivity. That would also help more professions and industries to expand into the mainland market. That will also provide more room for Hong Kong enterprises to develop. Lastly, I urge the government to continue to keep an eye on the difficulties faced by SMEs. With economic transformation, the SMEs are affected the most. The government should provide appropriate support whenever necessary to SMEs in response to market changes. The government should also make plans in advance and make sure it practices effective regulation. Thank you, Mr. Martin Liao. President, according to the World Banking Group for the 2024 rankings, Hong Kong out of 50 economies ranks in the top 10. We have also seen the current term government has been determined in attracting businesses and investment and talents. In 2024, the number of companies in Hong Kong with overseas or mainland parent companies has reached 9,960. Oasis has introduced 60 top-notch enterprises, and half of them are the elite enterprises. They are to bring $42 billion in investment, and they will create 17,000 job positions. As a small and open economy with high interest environment and trade restrictions and fierce competition and structural change in the economy of Hong Kong, it would dampen business confidence. As at November, the confidence in Hong Kong has reached a 13-month low. SMEs, due to resource restrictions, they will face challenges in economic transformation. We have over 360,000 SMEs. That is 98% of the total number of companies in Hong Kong. They create job opportunities for 1.8 million people. We have many SMEs in Hong Kong. They are very important in Hong Kong, not only in the economy, but also for the livelihood of the people. We need to support SMEs to transform and develop new business and new markets to make adjustments to the economic changes. President, there are 4 pain points at the moment for transformation of SMEs. It is hard for them to obtain support of the government. It is hard for them to create a brand. They do not also have awareness of ESG, and they are lagging behind in digitalization. In this year's policy address, we have the principal moratorium arrangement. We also have injection into the bud fund of $1 billion that would support e-commerce developments for SMEs, and that would definitely alleviate pressure on the SMEs. The banking sector would also provide appropriate support to the relevant enterprises with the government's initiatives. We need the governments to sustain themselves. While they would want to get support from the government, we also want to encourage them to be sustainable and develop products that are tailored for the market so that they can survive in the long term. The business sector and the relevant industries also express their concerns about manpower shortage in construction, retail, and F&B industries. We have serious manpower shortage, and we have seen major companies saying that with the manpower shortage, they have rising costs, especially in the construction industry and in the F&B industry. Because of the manpower shortage, people are now going north to spend their money. With importation of labor, not only are they paid the median income, the companies will also have to pay for the costs of relocation of such labor, or perhaps transportation as well. This goes against the intent of having imported labor. And in fact, we do see sluggish growth in the economy that shows the failure of such policies. With manpower shortage, it is affecting our business environment. With technical and manpower difficulties, we need interdepartmental collaboration and coordination to resolve the issues. I speak in support of Mr. Lam's motion and the amendments proposed by the members. Does any other member wish to speak? Mr. Jeffrey Lam, you may now speak on the amendments. Thank you, President. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Rock Chen and Dr. Simon Lee for proposing amendments to my motion. The 2 members' amendments have contents of what I've been advocating for, and these are what SMEs want as well. Mr. Rock Chen talked about conducting a comprehensive review of the existing policies and removing restrictions. In fact, we have been calling for that we should have regard to local circumstances and remove outdated restrictions. We need to remove the restrictions or even make enhancements to the relevant systems. As Mr. Rock Chen said, we have many changes in the external environment. We have fierce competition. We need to compete for enterprises and talents. We need to do more. We should not only rely on our existing systems. We now have an innovative approach in the development in Northern Metropolis. If enterprises want more space in the area, we need to remove the restrictions so that they can have such. We may even provide tailored services for them. We need to also make the vetting and approval process shorter. Hong Kong has all along had a favorable business environment, but many also consider the vetting and approval process of the government to be quite long, and many enterprises are therefore deterred. For foreign investors, they think it is deterring as well. So we really have to streamline the vetting and approval process. Dr. Simon Lee talked about strengthening the nurturing and support for startup teams in the areas of policies, market support, taxation, etc. I have made similar calls before. With geopolitical tensions and changes in the economic environment, SMEs are in much difficulty, especially for startups. In fact, according to the latest survey of the HKGCC, 44% of the respondents have poor expectations for future, and 60% of the enterprises said they would maintain their level of investment, and some said they would even lower their investment. So with tax incentives or development of markets, if the government can provide more support, that would be ideal. With the support to SMEs, it's not about SMEs relying solely on the government for support. The government should support the SMEs to undergo transformation and develop new business and markets. The government's support of SMEs will provide a lifeline to them. You are not only saving the companies, you are also saving the staff members' jobs. They would pay taxes to the government, and in turn that would be beneficial to the economy. If you do not help them and just leave the companies be, the workers will be out of jobs and the government will then have to support them. It will also be a burden to the treasury of the government. So I urge the government to have more support measures for SMEs or enterprises in general, so that enterprises can undergo transformation and meet the rising challenges. I also urge the government to consult various sectors, listen to their feedback, so that we can have a prosperous economy. Undersecretary for Labour and Welfare.
President, I'm grateful to Mr. Jeffrey LAM, the two members who moved amendments, and other members who put forward, the 28 members who put forward their invaluable views and suggestions in the debate. I would like to make a brief reply. From the end of 2022, the government has launched a series of measures to actively recruit talents from around the world with pleasing results. As at the end of November this year, nearly 420,000 applications were received under the various talent admission schemes. More than 260,000 applications were approved, and about a quarter of the successful applicants hold foreign passports. Well, so members said we need to do more publicity in the mainland. We agree, but we also need to attract global talents. In the same period, about 170,000 talents arrived in Hong Kong with their family members. Among the various talent admission schemes, the Top Talent Pass scheme, TTPS, is particularly popular. TTPS targets talents of high income and academic qualifications. So far, about 88,000 talents have been given approval to come to Hong Kong. 65,000 of them are graduates from the world's top universities, with more than 40% of them from outstanding overseas institutions. In addition, there has been a notable increase in the number of talents entering Hong Kong through the employment-tied admission scheme. That means applications have to be lodged by employers. The schemes are an effective way to provide the talents not readily available locally and promote the development of local industries. In May 2023, the government expanded the coverage of the talents list from 13 to 51 professions to facilitate the entry of talents not readily available locally. There has since been a substantial increase in the number of talents who meet the requirements of the talents list being granted approval to work in Hong Kong. Specifically, the number has increased from under 100 before the update of the list to over 1,000. In the next 5 years, the projected manpower shortage across different sectors in Hong Kong is about 180,000 workers. To cope with the acute manpower demand in the short to medium term, the Chief Executive announced in the 24 policy address that the government will reform the various aspects for the talent admission regime to build a quality talent pool in support of our future development. Measures already in place include the expansion of the list of universities and the extension of the validity period of the first visa of high-income talents from 2 to 3 years under TTPS, and also the enhancement of the assessment criteria and screening process of the general points test under the Quality Migrant Admission Scheme, QMAS. Other enhancement measures to troll for talents will be rolled out one by one. Among the measures, the updated talent list will be published early next year to include talents needed by industries related to the development of the 8 centres. Young and experienced non-degree talents with relevant professional and technical qualifications will be allowed to apply to come to Hong Kong and join skilled trades facing manpower shortage. And a new mechanism under QMAS will be introduced to proactively approach and invite top-notch talents to come to Hong Kong to build a career. The newly established Committee on Education, Technology and Talents held its first meeting last week. The Chief Secretary for Administration as the chairman will lead a cross-bureau effort to promote the integrated development of education, technology and talents. The committee will build on the strategic positioning and advantages of the 8 centres and make holistic strategies for the development of talent chains, innovation chains, industrial chains and capital chains to drive technological innovation, industrial innovation and the coordinated development of human resource supply and demand so as to press ahead with the invigoration of the country through science and technology. Bringing talents to Hong Kong is only the first step. As Mr. Jeffrey LAM said, we need to provide one-stop service. We must help talents to settle down in Hong Kong and build a career here for them to serve the needs of Hong Kong for sustainable development. Since its establishment at the end of October last year, the Hong Kong Talent Exchange, Hong Kong TE, has been providing comprehensive one-stop support services to incoming talents. This year, Hong Kong TE has organized or co-organized 5 job fairs to help talents seeking jobs with job matching. Over 230,000 talents were drawn to the fairs. Hong Kong TE also organized more than 30 thematic seminars and workshops covering topics such as starting a business, schooling for children, and Cantonese learning. The aim is to help incoming talents integrate into the local community more easily. In September this year, HKTE launched the Talents Plus volunteer scheme to strengthen the connection between local incoming talents and the local community through volunteer activities initiated by social groups and talent organizations. This is an avenue for incoming talents to contribute to society based on their expertise and interests. Looking ahead, Hong Kong TE will continue to provide assistance to talents based on their individual needs. Hong Kong TE will also further promote its online platform to provide a full range of information. It will expand its network of partners to coordinate more job fairs with the industry and employer groups and provide job matching services for talents seeking employment. As members pointed out, Hong Kong enjoys the advantage of being backed by the motherland and connected with the world. It has always been a hub for diversified talents from around the world. The government will continue to proactively attract and retain talents, strengthen Hong Kong's position as an international talent hub, and develop Hong Kong into an international hub for high-caliber talents. We will then have a robust talent base for reinforcing the development of the 8 centres under the 14th Five-Year Plan. We will then be able to contribute to the high-quality development of Hong Kong and the country while helping to accelerate the building of a modern and strong nation. Thank you.
Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. President, once again, I thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving his motion and Mr. Rock Chen and Dr. Simon Lee for their respective amendments, and the many members who shared their thoughts and ideas about actively responding to economic transformation and maintaining a favorable business environment. The Undersecretary for Labor and Welfare just discussed the matters about talent policies. Now, I will give a consolidated reply to the views from members. In the complex and volatile economic environment now, the government is keenly aware of the huge challenges enterprises inevitably face in their business. While we maintain our existing strength, we must reflect on ourselves and reform in fundamental ways. We must find new pathways to turn challenges into opportunities. The government will continue to maintain a reliable, convenient, and superb business environment and create more business opportunities for businesses to strengthen Hong Kong's impetus for growth. On this front, bureaus, departments, and organizations will remain open to views from members and industries and support each other in policies to create a favorable business environment. To attract and help businesses come here and expand their business, Invest Hong Kong has been actively providing one-stop support tailored to their needs. From planning to implementation, end-to-end assistance is given. In the first 11 months, Invest Hong Kong has helped 530 mainland or overseas businesses to set up or expand operations here, up more than 50% from the same period last year. That number exceeds the total of 382 for the entire 2023. These businesses brought $67 billion in direct investment. And then in the first year of setting up or expanding their business, they created 6,800 jobs. Just then, many members discussed exploring the Middle East and Latin American markets. That's in line with the government's policy of tapping new markets, bringing in investments, and helping our businesses go global. That will be good for business. The SAR government has signed free trade agreements with Peru and Chile. In Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and also Malaysia, we will set up economic and trade offices. The Belt and Road Office has also led delegations to Hungary and Kazakhstan to tap business opportunities in Eastern Europe and Central Asia. The SAR government will step up work on this front. Mrs. Regina Ip mentioned publicity. She called for emphasizing our status as a separate customs union. I fully agree. On telling Hong Kong's story well, the SAR government sets great store by stressing our strength under one country, two systems, our common law tradition, and our separate customs union. We will be looking at the success of our publicity drive. Yesterday, or rather on the 17th of December, 2 days ago, the chief executive announced that we saw a record high in the number of branch offices in Hong Kong. We now have more than 9,900 companies with headquarters from overseas or in the mainland. We also see an increase in corporate regional headquarters, offices, and branches in Hong Kong by more than 5%, 4%, and 13% respectively. Local startups also increased in number by 10% to around 4,700. These figures show, with one country, two systems as our unique edge, Hong Kong is becoming ever more attractive as a place to do business. We are an ideal place for setting up or scaling up business for enterprises of all sizes from far and wide. We offer advanced technology and a vibrant ecosystem. We offer great investment opportunities. We are confident of attracting more global and mainland firms to Hong Kong and draw firms from across those industry chains to our city. This will foster vibrancy in our innovation and technology ecosystem. Hong Kong, as an international financial center with the unique strength under one country, two systems, has always brought together capital, global businesses, and talents from everywhere. We have a highly internationalized business environment. This helps the mainland strategic enterprises that used to focus on the domestic market align their platforms and products further with global standards and meet global demand. The Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises will keep working to bring top-notch global businesses to Hong Kong. They will continue to follow up with businesses that have come here and encourage them to make good use of the policies announced in the 2024 policy address, and that include increasing investment in INT, taking forward the Northern Metropolis, and also fostering INT collaboration between sister cities of the GBA. These are new opportunities to be seized and gradually scale up their investment. We also work to attract key enterprises from the mainland and overseas in biotechnology, fintech, AI, data science, advanced manufacturing, and new energy technology, and encourage them to set up corporate headquarters or divisions here. This will be a source of driving forces of the government's effort to promote the headquarters economy. We want them to use Hong Kong's advantage in professional services to manage their transnational business, tap overseas markets, and raise international capital. We are also a crucial gateway for overseas companies to enter the mainland market. The dedicated family office HK team of Invest Hong Kong will continue to give one-stop support to family offices interested in coming here. In the first 11 months this year, the team helped over 140 family offices to set up or scale up their businesses here. We're also consulting the industry on enhancing tax concessions for the asset and wealth management sector. The proposals include broadening the definition of fund under the tax exemption regime, increasing the types of transactions that qualify for tax concessions for single-family offices, covering emission derivatives, emission allowances, insurance-linked securities, loans, and private credit investment and virtual assets, and also improving the tax concessions arrangements for carried interest distributed by private equity funds. This is to attract more funds and family offices with potential to come here. On support for SMEs, the 2024 policy address proposed an extra $1 billion for the dedicated fund on brand upgrading and domestic sales, or BUD fund. In the first half of next year, we will see many enhancements, and they include expanding the funding coverage of e-commerce easy to the 10 ASEAN member states, more targeted funding for enterprises to go green, to help SMEs achieve upgrading and transformation, as well as tapping new markets. The government will also extend the special measures under the SME Export Marketing Fund to the 30th of June 2026 and expand the scope of funding to cover large-scale exhibitions as well as online exhibitions targeting the local market. The Trade and Industrial Organization Support Fund will also continue its funding for non-profit distributing organizations such as trade associations to foster industrial transformation and upgrading. Mr. Ronick Chen mentioned digitalization. To support the digitalization drive of SMEs, we will also expand the scope of the Digital Transformation Support Pilot Program from retail and catering to tourism and personal services. This is a one-to-one match funding arrangement for SMEs to adopt ready-to-use basic digital solutions for them to go global. The global trade landscape is dynamic, so are consumption patterns. The government will step up support for enterprises in pursuing cross-boundary e-commerce. In light of that, the government will step up support and continue to coordinate and make policies at the Interdepartmental E-commerce Development Task Force. We will continue to hold the Hong Kong Shopping Festival on e-commerce platforms. We will step up promotion of our brands. The Hong Kong Export Credit Insurance Corporation will continue to seek more collaboration with financial institutions. There will be stronger support for exporters seeking to access export financing for e-commerce. We will also review our existing processes to boost the efficiency of cross-boundary goods distribution to strengthen Hong Kong's competitiveness in cross-boundary e-commerce. The government will also continue to offer support on many fronts to foster INT development. On INT, the government will enhance the Innovation and Technology Venture Fund. This means redeploying $1.5 billion to set up funds jointly with the market on a matching basis, investing in startups or strategic industry to further enhance Hong Kong's startup ecosystem. On supporting tech startups, we have the Hong Kong Science Park and Cyberport offering infrastructure and one-stop support. On top of that, the government will also launch the INT Accelerator pilot scheme with a funding of $180 million to attract professional startup service providers with proven track records in and beyond Hong Kong to set up accelerator bases in Hong Kong, fostering the robust growth of tech startups. On tax, the government will offer tax breaks for businesses pursuing R&D in Hong Kong. This means extra tax relief for businesses for eligible R&D expenses. This is to encourage more firms to pursue R&D in Hong Kong. The Digital Policy Office will continue to promote wider application of new technology and greater use of the central IT platform and services by bureaus and departments, including I Am Smart and the Digital Corporate Identity Platform under development. We will provide and deliver quality e-government services, streamline processes, reduce compliance costs for the industry, and help departments gauge industry views on regulatory regimes. This is about ensuring greater ease for doing business to help Hong Kong stay competitive. Looking ahead, bureaus, departments, and organizations will support each other in different areas to deliver the best business environment for enterprises. We will foster diversification of industries and new quality productive forces while supporting enterprises in navigating the challenges during the economic transition by pursuing new business and tapping new markets at Seoul Summit. Thank you, President.
I now call upon Mr. Rock Chen to move an amendment. President, I move my amendment. I propose the question to you that Mr. Rock Chen's amendment be passed. Will those in favour please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the amendment passed. Dr. Simon Lee, as the preceding amendment has been passed, you may move your further amendment. President, I move my further amendment. I propose the question to you that Dr. Simon Lee's further amendment be passed. Will those in favour please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the amendment passed. Mr. Jeffrey LAM, you have 1 minute and 19 seconds to reply, then the debate will come to a close. Mr. Jeffrey LAM. Thank you, President. I thank 30 members who spoke on my motion and expressed valuable views. Hong Kong is undergoing structural economic transformation. We need to implement reforms. The government should continue to be proactive in attracting businesses and talents. Invest Hong Kong has introduced many projects, and I hope other departments can facilitate the taking forward of such projects. I also hope the government will continue to attract and retain talents, enhance support for enterprises, and flesh out relevant legislation and regulatory frameworks, remove unnecessary restrictions. We should also develop ASEAN and the Middle Eastern markets and other emerging markets so as to attract more capital to come to Hong Kong and help Hong Kong and mainland companies go global. I hope the government will continue to consult various sectors so that we have a favourable business environment and boost the economy further. I urge members to support my motion. I also wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I now put the question to you that Mr. Jeffrey LAM's motion, as amended by Mr. Rock Chen and Dr. Simon Lee, be passed. Will those in favour please raise their hands? Will those against please raise their hands? I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the motion as amended passed. Members' motion to take note of a report